When Judge Lemkau gave custody back to him, that was it. I just knew that my baby's death sentence was signed that day.
Now at 5:30, an Inland Empire judge is under fire. A mother blames him for a tragedy that she says did not have to happen. Welcome back to CBS 2 News at 5. I'm Paul Majors.
And I'm Pat Harvey. New at 5:30, a judge in San Bernardino County is fighting for his political life. Critics say his own decision on the bench may have led to a young child's death. It's one of the most heated and emotional judicial elections in the country. CBS 2 News political reporter Dave Bryan has more on the judge, his ruling, and the campaign.
When Judge Lemkau gave custody back to him, that was it. I just knew that my baby's death sentence was signed that day.
In January, Katie Tagle asked San Bernardino County Superior Court Judge Robert Lemkau to issue a restraining order for her former boyfriend, Stephen Garcia. Tagle says Garcia, the father of her 9-month-old baby Wyatt, had sent her a lengthy, rambling email outlining his plans to kill the baby and himself unless she reconciled with him. She says she supplied the court with the menacing emails and a copy of an emergency protective order issued a week earlier by another judge after a sheriff's department investigation, as well as a mountain of other evidence.
I had emails, I had text messages, I had the emergency protective order, I had police reports, and he says that he never saw them.
Judge Lemkau says he did see the emails, but they were signed by John Hancock, not her husband, Stephen Garcia.
The emails could not be authenticated. Stephen Garcia denied that he had written the emails, and therefore I believe there was insufficient evidence to grant the temporary restraining order at that time.
But Judge Lemkau went even further, implying that he thought Tagle had made up the emails herself to get back at Garcia.
In court, did you say that you thought that she was lying?
I made comments based upon my review of the file, based upon the demeanor of the parties, and also based upon the prior history.
When he kept saying that, my suspicion, ma'am, is that you're lying, I wish that day he would have explained to me why he thought I was lying.
Tagle says her whole life was wrapped up in her 2 boys, 4-year-old Dakota and her 9-month-old baby Wyatt, the little boy who took funny pictures even before he even knew what a photograph was.
He always had this thing with his tongue where he'd stick his tongue out in pictures. He was just a real happy baby.
Without holding a full hearing, Judge Lemkau, who spoke to me about his decision for the first time ever in a television interview, denied the motion for a restraining order and restored joint custody of Wyatt for Stephen Garcia.
I mean, a 5-minute hearing for, my son's life, I don't think that's fair.
10 days later, Garcia poisoned baby Wyatt and shot himself in a murder-suicide, just as he had promised to do in his emails.
I was shocked and very traumatized by what had occurred.
In March, while protesters angry over Judge Lemkau's ruling marched outside the courthouse, he apologized to Katie Tagle in open court. But Lemkau says that based on the evidence in the file, despite the tragic outcome, he feels he made the right call.
Yes, judges obviously do not have a crystal ball. We're not soothsayers.
Shouldn't you have erred on the side of caution?
Well, I frequently do err on the side of caution in granting temporary restraining orders, particularly when there's recent abuse. But when there's a mere allegation, there's no facts supporting it, there's no history, you have to be cognizant of the rights of all parties that come before me.
Do you blame him for what happened?
I partially blame him for what happened because he gave Stephen that just last okay to go for it, and Stephen promised he would do this. He said he would do this, and 10 days later it happened.
Some observers say, well, if he had issued the restraining order, this wouldn't have happened.
Well, a restraining order is not a magic shield. A restraining order is a piece of paper. Stephen Garcia was a homicidal, suicidal psychopath. A restraining order would not have stopped him.
Do you feel guilty yourself in any way?
No. I mean, I made the appropriate decision based upon the facts and circumstances that appeared before me at that time.
I mean, he could have protected Wyatt. He could have. He didn't have to blow us off that day. He could have protected him. I really, really think Wyatt would still be here.
San Bernardino County Deputy District Attorney James Hosking says he was so upset about Judge Lemkau's handling of this case that he filed to run against him in the June 8th election when he realized no one else would.
To say we'll get around to having a full hearing and in the meantime go ahead and give this child to the man who has promised that he's going to kill this child if she does not reconcile with him shows just an absolute callousness that I cannot fathom.
Now, Katie Tagle is telling her story, doing volunteer work on the Hosking campaign, hoping to deny Judge Lemkau another term on the bench.
I really hope Lemkau doesn't get elected back in there, because I can't imagine him or this happening to someone else that was in his courtroom.
The organizer of protest demonstrations against Judge Lemkau says this case is just the tip of the iceberg.
This kind of tragedy is happening all across America in the family law courts. This is the very reason why judges should face the public.
Judge Lemkau is telling voters now that he's best qualified to continue as judge because he has decades of experience as a prosecutor and on the bench. But with the shadow of this case hanging over this campaign, it will be a tough sell on June 8th, to say the least. Reporting live, Bryan, CBS 2 News.